Happy Friday morning, everybody. We made it to Friday. It's almost the weekend. But before we go, I want to give you a little bit of an update with one of the candidates that's up for election in this primary season on August the 18th. Jessica Laird is running for Walton County Tax Collector. And so we thought we'd have her on today to talk a little bit about the position, what she wants to do if she were to be elected, and have her make her case for why you should vote for her. So thanks so much for coming on, Jessica. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on this Friday. Excited to be here with you and be able to share a little bit about my story and, who I am and what I'm looking to do. Born and raised here in Walton County, actually lived here in DeFuniak Springs most of my entire adulthood and childhood as well. Um, I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Eric. 27 years married. Gosh, you forgive me, but it's like 33 years or so that we've, been dating and all encompassed. We do have two children, two boys. Both of them, they live here in DeFuniak with us. They 23 and 20 years old. My oldest is a Walton County Fire Rescue, and my youngest, he works for Southern Windows and Doors, and he's a window door salesman. Loves his job, and so does my son, my oldest son. Very, very honored to have roots here in DeFuniak Springs and for our kids to put their roots down here as well. So that's my personal life. Professionally, I've worked for over 19 years in the tax collector industry. I feel like I'm a little bit, I guess I've been exposed to several different tax collectors' offices and their leadership styles. My career began down in Alachua County when I was 21 years old. I worked for Mr. Jim Bishop, started with him. We lived in Gainesville for 2 years and then moved to Bay County, moved to Panama City. And I had the privilege to work with Miss Brannon as the tax collector there. Um, we were able to move back to DeFuniak Springs in 2005. And so I took a little bit of a hiatus from public service and stayed home to raise my children until they were school age. And then I decided, it's time for me to get back into some adult social settings, right? So I joined the Walton County Tax Collector in 2011.
So why
Worked
tax
there.
collecting? Sorry,
Um,
but it's like a pattern, right? I think it's really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that's the only public service I've ever done. And the why is I was exposed to tax collector industry when I was a child growing up. My grandmother worked in the tax collector's office in Walton County for Mr. Little. She eventually became tax collector, so I was always around the office, like just the curious little child that was like, what is this about? What does my grandmother do? And I always saw my grandmother like out working and helping the citizens and helping the customers, and it always intrigued me. And I'll never forget, like one time I asked her, I'm like, Granny, what are these things with these tax certificate sales? I don't understand that. And so she tried to teach me about it, and that was just an intrigue for me, and I saw her serve the public, and that just drove me to want to do that.
Awesome. And so, what makes you the person for the job? I mean, you've talked a lot about your grandmother was a tax collector. You've been doing this for 20 years. I know your opponent has tax collector experience. Why you? What makes you the superior candidate?
Yeah, I think for me, it's because I started right on the frontline counter, and I have served thousands of customers over my years, and I've developed a very deep knowledge of systems and processes and procedures related to Department of Highway Safety, whether it's credentialing or whether it's registration, title work, different things like that. There are somewhere about in the title registration processes, there is about, give or take, maybe 200 procedures. So go from very simple transactions to very detailed, very confusing transactions. And so I've learned those processes pretty much in and out. If you ask me a question about where something is in the procedure manual, I pretty much can tell you the exact reference, the page number, and everything. So when someone comes to me and is like, hey, I've got this problem, I'm able to quickly filter through my brain and say, hey, okay, I know where this is at and I can figure this out. So it's a combination of, for me, it's a combination of the experience that I've developed working with customers, and then also beyond that, it's the experience I've developed with leadership, working with different leaders across the state and learning to grow my own leadership, and then taking that leadership and investing in others and creating leaders for the future.
Very good.
So,
And so I've always said I live over here in Okaloosa County, and I've always told people I'm not really shy about it that if Ben Anderson ran for president, I'd vote for him because of just the way that the tax collector's office seems to be run. And the thing that really impressed me is like you said, the processes, but also like the innovation, the new things that are coming in
mhm.
to the tax collector's office, which I'm sure is not just Ben Anderson's office, right? What is the next great innovation that you would want to implement if you became the tax collector?
So, our county is a little bit, it's spread out, of course, from, the Alabama line to to the Gulf, and there's a lot of land mass. Walton County right now only has three offices, of course, here in DeFuniak, then Freeport, and then in Santa Rosa Beach. That doesn't really help those citizens that are to the east and west. And what I would like to look at is, something like the little remote kiosks, which allow people to stop in, they can renew their registrations. Coming up for the future, I actually just spoke with one of the kiosk reps yesterday. We're going through the state, apologize, the state is going through this motorist modernization process where they're upgrading their systems. Currently in those kiosks, they're only able to renew registrations, but looking towards the fall, potentially customers may be able to replace their driver's license at a Publix or a Walmart or wherever those kiosks can be placed at. So I'm looking at that to have an immediate impact on the residents in the south of the county, because that's needed. It takes anywhere, 45 minutes to 50 minutes to drive from Miramar Beach to Santa Rosa Beach, just to go to the office. Particularly during tourist season, it can be, much longer than that. So I'm looking at doing things like that. I'd love to bring a TSA PreCheck service in.
Cool.
That's something that our residents need. They currently the closest place to go have a TSA PreCheck done is the Port of Pell. So it's a convenient service. And it's something that, our citizens they like convenience. They want to be able to get their credential, and they want to be able to go to the airport, not have to take their shoes off and not have to go through those lines. They just want to get on the plane and go. So I'd like to do that to make it more convenient. Um, so those are a few of the things I'm looking at.
So you've been in the tax collecting business for 20 years now, essentially.
Mhm.
What have you found has worked really well that you're going to keep and you're going to highlight? And what are you maybe thinking about taking away or doing away with policy or procedure wise?
What I think has worked really well is the tax collectors being able to come together and be able to present ideas to Department of Highway Safety Motor Vehicle. That's really a large part of it, is the collaboration of the tax collectors advocating for good public policy for our citizens. Um, the takeaway, I'm really big on this. Um, the state really band-aids us with limited resources, particularly when it comes to um, immigration documentation. So there are approximately 185 different classes of immigration classifications. Yes,
What?
there 185, give or take a few, of
Sure.
immigration classifications, right? And when that customer walks through our door, our team has to be extremely knowledgeable about what that classification means, about, is this a true legal document? Is it not a counterfeit document? Is it fraudulent? Um, so one of the things I really want to kind of maybe take away from the tax collectors or that tax collectors themselves and maybe kind of put back on the state is vetting those credentials and vetting those documents before they come to our office. Because oftentimes what happens is we'll get two or three people come in at the same time because most of these temporary yeah, folks that come into our office, they all live in the same household, so they all try to do the same thing at once. And what happens is that puts a huge burden on our team members to go through, vet those documents, where we have our citizens, our tax-paying citizens, that's just trying to get in and get out, and they're having to wait, right?
Got it.
So I would really like to see some of those vetting processes, placed back more on the state.
Very good. Last question for me is like, what initiatives have you been specifically responsible for? What have you done at the tax collector's office project wise, and how did they work out?
Project wise, over in, I'll start with Bay County. When I went to Bay County, it was extremely siloed. And what I mean by that is, so we have four offices. They had four
Mhm.
offices when we went. Um, in the office, there was a department that processed property taxes. There was a department that processed driver's license, and there was a process that or a, uh, off or a department that processed like title and registration, right?
Got it.
So we were able to cross train all of those team members so everyone can provide services, any services at the same time. So if you walk up to, a counter and you need to pay your property taxes, you need to get your driver's license, and you need to renew your registration, that's all done at the same time. You don't have to go from one counter to the next, get back in line, go to another counter, get back in line, right? Also, when we got over there was no queuing system at all. They had a ticketing system, and you would have random, team members just stand up and say, number 132, number 133. So we were able to head up and implement a queuing system. So that project was a pretty big project because we had to make sure we had all of our services right. We had to make sure that it would, it would it was spread across the organization and it would work efficiently. So those are some of the projects. But if you don't mind, I would like to talk about some of the um, public safety aspects that I've been
Sure.
able to um, because of the experience that I've been able to work with law enforcement on with inside our office.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we had um, a group of folks that kept coming in our office, and we noticed like this something's not right about this. It would be one lady, and she would continue to bring like three or four people in, and then we got to watching our cameras throughout all of our offices, and we would notice she would go leave our office, go to another office, take two or three more people in. So I got to notice, and I'm like, this just doesn't seem right. Something's not good with this. So the lady comes in one day, and she brings some documents in. So these documents, what she brings in, all seem legit, all seem legal. And what they were Puerto Rican birth certificates with each individual, social security cards, and proof of residential addresses. And it just so happened that one of those Puerto Rican birth certificates, someone had already used that same Puerto Rican birth certificate, and they had neck tattoos.
Oh,
Well, the gentleman in front of us, he didn't have any tattoos on him, so that's kind of hard. You can't get those removed real easily, right? So I contacted FHP, and I said, "Hey," I said, "I've got this lady here." I said, "Could you guys come down?" Well, come to find out, the FHP investigator came down. He interviewed the lady. He separated the three gentlemen that were with her. Come to find out, it was a human trafficking ring, and this lady was traveling to Texas, picking these individuals up at the border. They were stopping at a flea market in San Antonio. Yes, and they were buying Puerto Rican birth certificates with social
wow.
security cards and transporting them back here. So for me, the biggest reason that I want to do this is for the public safety. My family's on the roadways, your family's on the roadways, and I want to be able to ensure that through advocating for good public policy, that we can mitigate some of these transactions.
Absolutely. I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything that maybe I missed or I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything you want to tell the voters of Walton County before this election, which, by the way, is on August the 18th? You can vote
Yeah.
2 weeks early.
August the 18th, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be, with you today, and of course with the voters. I know that I haven't been able to get out and meet a lot of people, but I would absolutely love to connect. So if you would love to connect with me, please feel free. My Facebook page, Jessica Laird for Walton County Tax Collector. My phone number's on there. The one thing I will tell you, my phone number is my phone number. It's not a Google phone. You're not going to get, some crazy number, whatever. And the other thing is, whether my phone number is available today, it'll be available in a year, and it'll be available forever. So if you ever need anything, you can please reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. Awesome. Jessica Laird, a candidate for Walton County Tax Collector. Like I said just a moment ago, August 18th is the primary date. You have an ability to vote 2 weeks before that in early voting, mail in voting as well. If you're going to do that, though, make sure that all of your stuff is up to date because there have been some changes. Thank you so much, Jessica, for
Thank
being with us
you.
today.
Thank you.